I heard you use the word urgency last week. Define what urgency is for you and what needs to happen for people to respond to the urgency.
Well, I made the comment that, for a lot of us who've been in the organization for a while, and I include Mike Tomlin in this, we are getting impatient. We want to take that next step. We want to win playoff games and go deep into the postseason. So, we miss being part of that, and that's where the urgency is. We need to get back to being, playing football deep into January and hopefully February.
Especially because you have some guys on the other side of the ball who have been here for a while. I assume you include them in it. T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward, even Minka.
No question. We have obviously a great core group of players on defense that we gotta get those guys deep into the postseason as well. They're just as hungry as everybody else.
But obviously, we value the tape, and oftentimes tape is produced by good relationships with the game and work ethic and being solid individuals. And, we value all of those things. We research. And so I think that's kind of reflective of this group.
And there you have it. That was Mike Tomlin during this weekend following their early picks in the draft. As you could hear right there, Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan seem to be pretty elated right now. Very fired up for this year's draft picks they had. With the 7 picks, let's just recap who the Steelers got. As we take a look back at it, this past weekend, back in the Motor City in Detroit, and Steelers, they did mold up their engines in the Motor City. But here you go, starting at 20th overall, they select Troy Fautanu, tackle out of Washington. Then you had, of course, center Zach Frazier with their 51st pick in the second round. And then to kick off night 2 with their third round pick, their 2 third round picks, they had a 4th overall in the third round at Roman Wilson, wide receiver out of Michigan. Then you had Peyton Wilson at 98th. Excuse me, night 2 was rounds 2 for 3, excuse me. So they got center Zach Frazier to kick off the night out of West Virginia, followed by Roman Wilson out of Michigan at 84, and then Peyton Wilson, linebacker of North Carolina State, seems to be pretty nicked up with some injuries pretty much throughout his time playing in college. Then you also had on Saturday with the finale of their draft in the 4th round, 119th, Mason McCormick, who's a guard out of South Dakota State. Then in the 6th round, 178th, Logan Lee, defensive tackle out of Iowa. And then their final pick of the draft at 195th in the 6th round, Ryan Watts right there. As we take a look at it right now, Steelers did pretty good. The all-in mentality that a lot of Steeler Nation has been paying attention to. When you really truly look at it right now, this team right here definitely had been making strides in the right direction, been a little bit more aggressive in free agency than throughout the draft and stuff. But a few other key notes, too, as we take a look on Saturday, it was being reported, according to Jerry Dulac of the Post-Gazette, that he was reporting that Mike Tomlin and GM Omar Khan met with former Steelers third round 94th overall pick in 2017, quarterback Cam Sutton last week in Pittsburgh, according to some sources. Quarterback Cam Sutton, he entered the pretrial diversion program to resolve a misdemeanor battery charge this month, and now he's working on finding a place to play in 2024 right now. Now, there's been some other names, too, as we've been hearing, too. More particularly, former Steeler defense back Brian McFadden saying about 7 hours ago after 4 Eastern that Omar is working, that the Steelers are very close to landing a significant playmaker. Now, one of the guys I would be thinking too, because a lot of people were probably thinking, would they try and like deal for guys like from the 49ers, wide receivers, either Brandon Ayuk or Debo Samuel. Now, Brandon Ayuk right now, who definitely is coming off one of his best career seasons when you look at it. I mean, for right now, along with Debo Samuel, but more particularly Brandon Ayuk, who was selected 25th overall in the 2020 draft right here, has career high in receiving yards, which led the team 1,342 yards with 7 touchdowns. He had more than 300 yards from his previous year, where he had 1,015 yards with 8 touchdowns. I mean, this guy has been progressing year by year. I mean, pretty much. Surprisingly, he has not made a Pro Bowl just yet. But at the end of the day, right now, it seems like Adam Schefter, who's on the Pat McAfee show, he was discussing a little bit more about the possibility of what the 49ers be willing to do. Now, there were some whispers that they were hearing some more trade talks as the draft got heated up, but it seems like they weren't satisfied with any offers. But here's what Adam Schefter had to say when speaking with Pat McAfee on his show. Basically, I'll read that.
I think what happened is at various points during the offseason, they had inquiries about Brandon Ayuk, and they decided they wanted to try to sign him to a long-term contract that they're still trying to get done. They got a couple of inquiries on Debo. Nothing got close to getting done. And they said over the weekend, and I believe this is the plan, that the plan right now is to move forward with both those guys. Now, here's the deal. Ayuk has not signed that contract. He's headed into the last year of his deal. Juwan Jennings is headed into the last year of his deal. And Debo Samuel is headed into the last year of guaranteed money on his deal that has 2 years left. So clearly, there are wide receiver questions in San Francisco that they're going to have to address. So they got out in front of it this weekend by drafting the 2 wide receivers that they did, including Ricky Pearsall in round 1. And Ricky Pearsall, the funny thing is he wanted to go to San Francisco. That was the place he mentioned before the draft to a few people that he wanted to go to. He winds up there in a perfect spot for him, making some of the catches that he has. And now the Niners don't plan to move on from either of those guys. Now, could that change at some point? Sure, absolutely. And by the way, if there's a team that all of a sudden has a wide receiver injury and makes a big play, could you pry loose one of these guys? It's not what they would like to do. It's not what they're planning to do. It's not what they want to do. But clearly we know that there are some wide receiver questions out in San Francisco.
There you have it from Adam Schefter right there. I mean, so it sounds like they're going to stand pat with their options right there. Be honest, I don't know if it really sounds too realistic or not. But I mean, not to rule anything out. But I think if anyone that they would try, I think maybe Debo Samuel would make a little bit more sense out of that one. But for right now, I'm not too sure. I'd have to say right now, I mean, like who that one guy the Steelers could be looking for that Omar Khan would be paying attention to. I mean, working his magical wand right now and trying to be a little bit more aggressive right now to trade or acquire someone. I think another guy that would probably fit the bill right here, you had to look at from Denver right now. The only problem is, from what I'm hearing, though, he would want he want a new contract because he already got like 2 years remaining on his deal. I'm talking about none other than Cortland Sutton right here, who will be with the Denver Broncos. As we take a look at, as we look at like his contract situation right now. Cortland Sutton right now, like I said, he signed a 4-year deal back when he was he got that. But right now he's got like about 2 years remaining on his deal, and his cap hit right now for this season is about over $17.39 million and 17 and $8.25 million in 2025. Now that'd be a guy who probably make a little bit of sense right there if they're going to try and deal someone. And a guy right here who's only made one Pro Bowl. I mean, he'll be this year. He'll be turning 29 years old in October. But I mean, this guy right here, when you look at like what he's been able to do, the Cortland Sutton, wide receiver, excuse me, my bad, not defense back. But anyway, I mean, Cortland Sutton right now, I think he'd be a nice guy that could fit in with this wide receiving group. Excuse me for saying defense back. Don't mind me. I don't know why. But anyway, I probably think that'd be one guy they could probably do. I mean, you gotta think right now. I mean, the Steelers right now who are looking, like I said, you look at the receiver who they drafted. I mean, Roman Wilson out of Michigan, who might be able to fit that bill right now. He has a damn good grade right now, 6.35. I mean, which is pretty much right now. When you look at that grade right now, that is a encouraging, solid grade right there, an eventual plus starter. And I'd just be wondering to see how you'd be able to fit in. But anyway, I mean, when you look at like the current wide receiver situation right now with the Steelers right now, if you look at their depth chart right now, if we take a look at our lads right now, you got George Pickens at your left side of the receiving group with Van Jefferson on the right. Slot right now will be appear to be Roman Wilson right now. I'm sure they'd be still be wanting to add to that depth right now. We'll see. But anyway, let's go ahead and recap like their top 100 picks. Paul Zeiss, who writes for the Post Gazette, he's also one of the hosts with Joe Starkey on 937 The Fan. He was saying it was actually the ultimate meat and potatoes draft. That is precisely what the doctor ordered for the Steelers, who haven't won a playoff game in so long that time to describe the organization as hungry and having something to prove when he joined NFL Network during draft coverage. Steelers, they kicked off this year's draft selecting two linemen with their first round picks for the first time since 2012. And of course, we just mentioned Troy Fautanu of Washington. And of course, with their 51st overall pick to begin night two, starter Zach Frazier of West Virginia. It was a little less than a year ago the Pittsburgh Steelers assistant general manager Andy Weil laid out his beliefs on how to build an organization. We're going to be big. We're going to be physical. We're going to be tough. We're going to break the will of other teams. We want to be able to impose our will on teams. That's Pittsburgh Steelers, right? And so far, I gotta give them credit. I mean, and you look at the first time since 2012 when they actually drafted, I mean, back-to-back linemen. I mean, in their draft history right here. I mean, with their first two picks. And of course, we saw in that 2012 draft. I mean, right there, you start off with guard David DeCastro, who went on to earn two All Pros with 6 Pro Bowls. And then your second pick, you had tackle Mike Adams right there. But I mean, still overall, I mean, that was a pretty good foundational offensive line they were building, which really didn't come to start taking form until like around 2015. And for them, I mean, this year, what they've been trying to do, I mean, when they cleaned out the front office over a couple of years ago with Kevin Colbert exiting and then coming the dynamic duo of Omar Khan and Andy Weidel, Omar Khan being the primary general manager, it was their belief that they needed to build around the O-line and make it the strength of their team. I mean, and then you look at last year too. I mean, when you look at the signings, what they've been doing up to this point, guard Isaac Salamalu moved up in the first round of the 2020. They signed guard Isaac Salamalu, and then in last year's draft, they moved up in the first round to select Broderick Jones, and they kept it going Thursday night by holding their ground, selecting Troy with their 20th pick. And I think one of the coolest things too, I mean, with Troy right here, I mean, which was awesome. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, which is very cool. Valentino, he grew up a Steelers fan. His favorite player was Troy Polamalu. Now he's headed there. And that was tweeted out by Ian Rappaport that night when they made the selection. So here we go right now. See what they're able to do. But yeah, I think right now, I mean, the Steelers got rave reviews so far. I mean, pretty much all A's except for CBS gave him a B plus. So I mean, you're looking pretty much almost like an average A minus draft. I mean, considering what they've been able to do. I mean, then when you continue to go a little bit further too, like I said, you have Roman Wilson out of Michigan from the national champs right there. Now, of course, my only concern is Peyton Wilson right there. I mean, as we look at it, I mean, Roman Wilson right now, according to Mel Kiper Jr., Roman Wilson, who had 12 touchdowns last season, his stock was boosted after he ran a 4.39 4-yard dash at the combine. Now, Peyton Wilson, however, he dropped to his Mel concerns, but he's a speedy off-ball linebacker with range. He's one of like the top tacklers right here, too. The only problem is, I mean, with Peyton Wilson, I mean, who's been really hurt right now, a lingering left shoulder injury issue after not a great operation on it. Rapport added after two anterior cruciate tears that Wilson does not have an ACL left in one of his knees. And former Steelers Greg Lloyd and Heinz Ward had long careers despite missing an ACL. So that's going to be one guy to keep an eye on right there. I mean, have they been able to find someone? I mean, it was just as good as Ryan Shazier. I think if he could find a way to stay healthy, I mean, that's the key right now. It's very interesting. But I mean, they're willing to roll the dice right now with him. We'll wait and see. I mean, if he can stay healthy, the top 4 picks in the top 100 for my book will be a slam dunk, no doubt about it. But as far as earlier picks too, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, like Mel Kiper was saying that taking Zach Frazier, who's ranked as the second ranked center, and then, of course, Mason McCormick, his sixth-ranked guard. That's at least 2 new stars for the Steelers' O-line. Sandwiched between those 2 picks were values on their board, which I think was really good. Now, when you go into the remaining picks, 4th-round, 119th guard Mason McCormick of South Dakota State, and then you had Chad Ruler. The Steelers went O-line again on day 3. McCormick at least a round later than I placed his value because of his toughness and athleticism. 6th round, 178th, they selected defensive tackle Logan Lee of Iowa. Lee, who's a nice 6th-round pick, will excel at 5 technique due to his strength and motor. They had in the 6th round, 195th cornerback Ryan Watts. Watts will get a chance to use his physicality in the secondary, though the team could have used an earlier pick at cornerback instead of picking 3 offensive linemen. I do feel like the Steelers slipped up on defensive tackle, though. That's one thing to keep an eye on right here. I think they should have done a much better job. I mean, with that, I mean, their defensive tackle, I thought was just not really good, to be honest with you. I mean, and when you look at like I mean, who they got, I mean, with those picks, I mean, of course, Ryan Watts, but then you look at like 178th Logan Lee. I'm not sure. I mean, who has a good 5 technique. I mean, they consider him to be a tweener. When you look at other guys, they passed on too. I mean, you look at like the Lions, who grabbed Wingo at 189th out of LSU, had much better grade. I feel than Logan Lee. And then you also had right here too of Clemson, Tyler Davis right here. Listen, I don't know. I mean, Cam Hayward, who's entering the final year of his deal right now after signing his last extension 4 years ago in 2020. I think they need to do better than that as far as the defensive tackle. That right there, they could have gotten probably arguably on night 2. But then again, I mean, we'll see how it shakes out. The key thing is going to be Peyton Wilson right there, in my opinion, how he's able to stay healthy.
But as fans, it's like 17 games has just become like status quo. Is there a thought of adding another one, maybe adding another bye week so we can get more exposure, more TV deals, or are we good at 17 right now?
Well, I think we're good at 17 now, but listen, we're looking at how we continue. I'm not a fan of the preseason. I don't think we need three.
Waste of time, right, and energy.
I don't buy it, and I don't think these guys like it either.
Well, they have to spend full price for the tickets for those games.
No, they're actually discounted now. So
thank you for doing that.
We got that done.
Thank you.
Our commission.
That's our commission.
Thank you, Commissioner.
But the reality is, I think I'd rather replace a preseason game with a regular season any day. That's just picking quality, right? So if we got to 18-2, that's not an unreasonable thing. The other thing it does, which I thought you were going to, is that ends up on President's Day weekend, which is a 3-day weekend, which makes the Sunday night, and then you have Monday off. So that's
wow.
Now we're cooking.
See? Now I want to go to some other topics before we close this thing out right here too. Roger Goodell, who was actually on the Pat McAfee show, he was wanted to get rid of the third preseason game and make it where the season ends on President's Day. I mean, right now, they're still fine with where it is right now. With 17 games, but it does seem to be inevitable. But Goodell said this is President's Day weekend built around the Super Bowl on Sunday night. Those steps of the potential changes have been taken thus far, and it's important to note too that when they did make the changes to the late for the season, would need to be collectively bargained with the NFL Players Association, as it was when the most recent labor deal was negotiated. The move towards 17 games initially faced significant opposition from players. Such players who were definitely opposed right now, was former quarterback of the Packers, Aaron Rodgers, who's now with the Jets. He was definitely one of the voices who had harsh pushback on it. The CBA ultimately passed with a slim majority in player balloting, 51.5% voting in favor right there. Now, I've been thinking about this going back as early as 2011 when I've been hearing this. I've always been excited for that. I can't really speak for the players. As a fan, I will love it. But, right now, I think the only thing that would be really, once they really increase the 17 games, you definitely feel like it's inevitable. I feel right now, if they're going to do it, you would have to probably, if you're going to have it end around President's Day, you'd have to have it start the season start off around Labor Day weekend pretty much. So, you'd be willing to steal some of college football's opening week thunder, or would you start in the final week? You would have that third and final preseason game that you'd be willing to get rid of. That'd be an interesting question right there. And also one of the other things too that Goodell did mention too was where a team or division will ever be based overseas. Goodell seemed less certain. Will a franchise happen or a division? He said maybe, but I think that's beyond 10 years though. Now another thing too that has just been and looked into right now is having guardian caps on helmets during regular season. You see those foam helmets that the players are wearing a lot during practices right here too. The pad headgear was mandated for players at certain positions during training camp in the last two seasons. Speaking earlier this season, NFL Executive Vice President Jeff Miller said that the guardian caps have contributed to nearly 50% reduction in concussions for position groups that wore them during those time periods. Now, in a statement that was provided Friday, Miller said, "We now have 2 years of data showing significant concussion reductions amongst players who wear guardian caps during practice, so players will be permitted to wear the caps during games this upcoming season. Additionally, there are new helmets this year that provide as much, if not more, protection than a different helmet model paired with guardian cap. These developments represent substantial progress in our efforts to make the game safer for players." I'll be honest with you, and there's been a lot of doubt, more particularly, the last 10 years or so, when you've been hearing, or the last 15 years almost, as the concussions like slowly got exposed, you see like the more hits, guys being laid out. I mean, what was going to be like the real future of this game? How much longer will it be able to last? There's been a lot of legitimate like chatter about that probably not lasting as long term. I'll be honest with you, the NFL ain't going to be that foolish. They're going to do everything they can to keep this, I mean, for years to come. And I think if you got to have more guardian helps on the field, that's fine with me. One thing they will note too, they're going to work on trying to put logos on guardian helmets. As currently right now, there's none on there as you see them being worn during practice. But anyway, that's all I got it for this podcast. Uh, and that's all I really gotta say. I mean, to be honest with you, me personally, this year's draft, I probably give it like a solid B, to be honest with you. Only because they have Pete Wilson right there. I think other than that, everything else they pretty much nailed right now. You're definitely seeing it complement Arthur Smith's style, and we'll wait and see. But other than that, excited for this year. And right now, let's get on. But once again, you guys can follow me on social media. You can follow me on X at Men of Steel CGR and on Instagram at Men of Steel Nation. As I leave you, don't be trolling, be rolling. Here goes, here we go. I go. Thank you for watching the Men of Steel podcast with your host, Charles Prodigy Richey, here on YouTube. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button. And for all the latest Men of Steel podcast episodes, feel free to download them on Mixcloud, Anchor.fm, and SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts.